The escape was only the beginning. The night I fled the Hemlock Hill house, I carried with me a darkness that would forever change me. The creature's haunting eyes, its inhuman shriek, were etched into my mind. I spent weeks in a haze of fear, unable to shake the feeling that it was still out there, watching me. The nightmares began almost immediately. I would wake up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. In these dreams, the house on Hemlock Hill was a labyrinth of terror, and the creature was always there, lurking in the shadows, waiting to claim me. I tried to find solace in the company of others, but it was futile. People looked at me with pitying eyes, as if they could see the fear etched into my face. I became a recluse, isolating myself in my small apartment, the world outside a terrifying unknown. Then, the disappearances started again. People vanished without a trace, their stories eerily similar to those connected to the Hemlock Hill house. A cold dread crept into my heart. Could it be that the creature was expanding its territory? Was there a sinister force at work, drawing victims to their doom? Driven by a desperate need to understand, I began to investigate. I spent countless hours poring over old newspapers, searching for any connection between the disappearances. I interviewed people who claimed to have seen strange lights or heard unexplained noises in the woods surrounding Hemlock Hill. Slowly, a disturbing pattern emerged. All the victims had been to the Hemlock Hill area at some point in their lives. Some had visited the house, others had simply driven past it. It was as if the house was casting a sinister spell, drawing people in before claiming them. With each new disappearance, my fear grew. I knew I had to do something, but what? I was no hero, no fearless investigator. I was just a terrified man haunted by the horrors of the Hemlock Hill house. One night, as I lay awake, tormented by nightmares, I heard a noise outside my apartment. My heart pounded in my chest as I crept to the window. There, in the dim moonlight, I saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was tall and gaunt, with an unnatural glow emanating from its body. Fear paralyzed me. I knew that creature. It was the same one from the Hemlock Hill house. It was here, in my city, hunting for new victims, and I was next. The escape was only the beginning. The night I fled the Hemlock Hill house, I carried with me a darkness that would forever change me. The creature's haunting eyes, its inhuman shriek, were etched into my mind. I spent weeks in a haze of fear, unable to shake the feeling that it was still out there, watching me. The nightmares began almost immediately. I would wake up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. In these dreams, the house on Hemlock Hill was a labyrinth of terror, and the creature was always there, lurking in the shadows, waiting to claim me. I tried to find solace in the company of others, but it was futile. People looked at me with pitying eyes, as if they could see the fear etched into my face. I became a recluse, isolating myself in my small apartment, the world outside a terrifying unknown. Then, the disappearances started again. People vanished without a trace, their stories eerily similar to those connected to the Hemlock Hill house. A cold dread crept into my heart. Could it be that the creature was expanding its territory? Was there a sinister force at work, drawing victims to their doom? Driven by a desperate need to understand, I began to investigate. I spent countless hours poring over old newspapers, searching for any connection between the disappearances. I interviewed people who claimed to have seen strange lights or heard unexplained noises in the woods surrounding Hemlock Hill. Slowly, a disturbing pattern emerged. All the victims had been to the Hemlock Hill area at some point in their lives. Some had visited the house, others had simply driven past it. It was as if the house was casting a sinister spell, drawing people in before claiming them. With each new disappearance, my fear grew. I knew I had to do something, but what? I was no hero, no fearless investigator. I was just a terrified man haunted by the horrors of the Hemlock Hill house. One night, as I lay awake, tormented by nightmares, I heard a noise outside my apartment. My heart pounded in my chest as I crept to the window. There, in the dim moonlight, I saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was tall and gaunt, with an unnatural glow emanating from its body. Fear paralyzed me. I knew that creature. It was the same one from the Hemlock Hill house. It was here, in my city, hunting for new victims, and I was next. Adrenaline surged through me as I realized the creature was outside my apartment. My mind raced, searching for a way to escape. I grabbed a kitchen knife, my only weapon against the inhuman horror that lurked in the darkness. The creature seemed to sense my fear, its low growl echoing through the night. I pressed myself against the wall, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The silence was deafening, broken only by the pounding of my heart. Then, it happened. The door burst open, and the creature lunged. I swung the knife, but it was useless against such a formidable opponent. The creature's cold, skeletal hand clamped around my wrist, and I felt its icy touch seep into my bones. Desperation fueled my final act of defiance. With a superhuman effort, I twisted free and hurled myself out of the window. The fall was terrifying, but it saved my life. As I hit the ground, I scrambled to my feet and ran, my lungs burning, my legs aching. I didn't stop until I reached the safety of a crowded street. I looked back at my apartment building, my heart pounding in my chest. The creature was gone, but I knew it wouldn't be long before it found me again. I was a marked man, a target in a terrifying game of cat and mouse. The following days were a blur of fear and paranoia. I moved from one cheap motel to another, always looking over my shoulder, always expecting the worst. I became a shadow of my former self, haunted by the horrors of the Hemlock Hill house and the creature that had escaped its confines. I knew I couldn't run forever. The creature was relentless, and it would eventually find me, but I was determined to fight back. I started to research the creature, delving into the darkest corners of the internet, searching for any information that could help me defeat it. I discovered that there were others like me, people who had encountered similar horrors. They were scattered across the country, living in fear, isolated and alone. I reached out to them, forming a loose alliance, sharing information and support. Together, we began to piece together the puzzle. We learned that the creature was not alone. There were others like it, dark entities from a realm beyond our comprehension. They were drawn to negative energy, to fear and despair, and they were multiplying. Our fight against the darkness had only just begun. The road ahead was fraught with danger, but we were determined to survive. We would not be victims. We would be hunters. Would you like to know what happens next? Our network grew slowly, a fragile alliance forged in the face of unimaginable terror. We shared information, strategies, and most importantly, hope. We discovered ancient texts, hidden knowledge of these creatures, their origins, and their weaknesses. It was a grim education, but it was our only chance. We learned of a place, a remote, desolate region where these entities were said to have first appeared. A place of ancient power, a gateway to their world. It was a dangerous gamble, but it was our only hope of ending this nightmare. Our group, a ragtag band of survivors, prepared for the perilous journey. We armed ourselves with everything we could find, from traditional weapons to experimental devices designed to disrupt the creature's energy fields. We knew the odds were against us, but we were driven by a desperate need to protect humanity. The journey was a test of endurance. We faced harsh conditions, treacherous terrain, and the constant threat of attack, but we pressed on, our determination fueled by the knowledge that countless lives depended on our success. Finally, we reached our destination, a desolate, windswept landscape, devoid of life. In the center of this barren wasteland stood a monolithic structure, a dark monolith that seemed to draw the eye with an unnatural force. As we approached the structure, the air grew heavy with dread. The creatures sensed our presence, and they were coming for us. A fierce battle ensued, a clash of light and darkness. We fought with a ferocity born of desperation, our bodies pushed to their limits. One by one, our comrades fell, their sacrifices not in vain. With each fallen comrade, our resolve grew stronger. We fought on, our hearts filled with a rage that fueled our every action. In the end, it was a single, decisive moment that turned the tide. A young woman, a brilliant scientist, had developed a weapon based on ancient texts. It was a gamble, but it worked. With a blinding flash of light, the creatures were banished, their dark energy dissipated. We had won, the nightmare was over, but the cost had been high. Many of our friends were gone, and the world would never be the same. Yet, as we stood amidst the ruins of the ancient structure, A sense of peace washed over us. We had faced our fears, confronted the darkness, and emerged victorious. The battle might be over, but the war was far from won. The world had changed, and we were the ones who had to rebuild it. It would be a long and arduous task, but we were ready. We had faced the unimaginable and survived. We were survivors, and we would endure. Sarah escaped the clutches of the house on Hemlock Hill by sheer luck. She collapsed at the feet of a passing motorist, a disheveled figure with wild eyes and a face etched with terror. The man, a kind-hearted local named Tom, took her in, nursing her back to health. In the safety of Tom's home, Sarah began to piece together the fragments of her ordeal. The house, she realized, was more than just haunted. It was a living, malevolent entity, drawing its sustenance from fear. She had been its prey, a fresh source of terror to feed its insatiable hunger. News of Sarah's encounter spread through the town, fueling the already potent fear surrounding the house. A group of determined locals, led by Tom, decided to confront the evil that had taken root in their midst. Armed with courage and a few well-placed stakes, they stormed the house, determined to exorcise its demonic occupant. The battle was fierce. The house fought back with unnatural strength, its walls seeming to close in on the intruders. One by one, the brave souls fell, their screams echoing through the night. Tom, the last man standing, faced the creature alone. With a surge of adrenaline, he plunged a stake into its heart. The owl shuddered, then fell silent. But the victory was bittersweet. The house on Hemlock Hill was destroyed, but the evil that resided within it might not be truly vanquished. Sarah, haunted by her experience, became a recluse, her mind forever scarred by the horrors she had witnessed. The town, though relieved, remained on edge, the shadow of the house on Hemlock Hill lingering in their collective consciousness. And so, the story of the house on Hemlock Hill ended, or perhaps, merely paused, for in the darkest corners of the world, there are always shadows waiting to emerge, and old houses, with their secrets locked deep within their walls, often hold the key to unlocking the most terrifying of nightmares. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.